Hi everyone, I'm Brooke, and for my journalism class this summer, I will show you a piece of writing from or about the Bay Area, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. So today's is another piece of physical media, and it is the GAG Music Zine, Volume 1. And all of the writing in this fairly thick zine, although a lot of it is photographs, it's 3 essays, and they are all written by the same person, Alex, who is my editor at the Daily Cal. And all of them are about ambient music because he spent his summer studying ambient music, which I learned from this zine. So I'll start by showing you intermittently the pictures in between, and then I'll just pick out a couple of my favorite passages from the essays, and we can talk about what I think they might mean. That's cool. I like that one. All right, here we are. So he gives a couple of definitions of what ambient music is, and all of them sort of essentially mean that there is no beat, often without a tune or beat, no persistent beat, often lacks composition, beat, and or structured melody. So there's that. I think it's pretty broad. I think you can make a lot of sounds that don't have a beat, and that's what the first essay touches on. A composition by John Cage, which debuted in 1952, called 433. So if you've heard of it, you might know it is nothing. It's more, in my opinion, of a performance piece than anything, and classically, a pianist will sit down in front of a grand piano, in front of an audience, and then not play it for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And in that sense, you really, like, the audience kind of freaks out generally. I think now, I'm sure in 1952, like, you really, like, the first time they played it, it was like, and now you might be like, oh, they're doing 433. But we talked about this a little in my rhetoric class as well. It's sort of a famous piece, and I think it's really interesting because you can find it on Spotify, which is very strange because so much of it is about the noises made by the audience, that when there is no music, the thing that you're listening to is like the people around you shifting in their chairs and coughing and making whatever other noises audiences make for almost 5 minutes. And that reminds me of something that one of my professors was talking about in another class about sound design, that her husband was sound designing a play, and there's this moment where it really needs to feel like all the audio is just sucked out of the room, like just completely like, and the way that he achieved that I thought was very interesting. He went to the theater when no one was in it and recorded the room tone, which is just like what the space sounds like, because every place has different sort of echoes, and recorded what it sounds like with nobody in it, and then gradually, as the play went on, just increased that sound just a little tiny bit. And as you're hearing that white noise, your brain gets totally acclimated to it, and they couldn't hear it at all. And at that moment when all the audio needed to cut, he just cut the white noise, and it was like complete. And then they're just like, in 433, you're just faced with yourself, and you can hear yourself and the people around you making noise. So that's the first piece. And then here's a couple more, or one more photo. This one is called A Trip to the Dentist, and I think that it has this very interesting passage toward the end. So I'll read you the last 2 paragraphs. Since then, I've listened to the album properly, i.e. with headphones and the requisite awareness. I still prefer letting it sit on the floor. I've played to it many times that way, and each time I notice something new. Here, the sound darkens. Here, it harmonizes. Here, little flecks of light creep in. Here, the wind picks up. Here, it dies. I realize the album isn't something to be conquered, not something adversarial. It's self-contained, full of hidden life, yet completely neutral to outsiders. The more I listen, the more I discover what's inside. Ambient music doesn't happen to you. It doesn't hold you down. It's a room waiting for you with an open door. Sometimes it's tedious, but only because tedium is a non-issue for music that is as much an object as it is an experience. Is a castle tedious? A forest? Or are the sizes of these places invitations to explore? I don't listen to ambient music, but this does make me want to, because I think generally ambient music, you think of it as something to be listened to passively. So it's interesting to think about dedicating your attention wholly to just interpreting the sound for such a long stretch of time. And then here we are again, the photos, and then we're in the last piece. And once again, I'm going to read you one of the final pieces, the final paragraph of this piece. And I like how these pieces work together to build more of an understanding of, it's almost building a case for ambient music. It doesn't really try to urge you to listen, but just the way that he describes it makes it sound very alluring. Ambient music is not a literal creation of indestructible space, nor is it an exaltation of its creator to godhood. It is an opportunity for the listener to alter their perception of life. It allows us to augment reality with fiction. I would rather live in a world where someone makes the oceans sound perfect, where God sings with children, where melancholy can be turned off and on and will. For a brief period, that world can be real. This, I believe, is my favorite photo in the whole zine because it's just awesome. The composition is awesome. I love his shirt. I love the sort of tone of it. And he's just totally, blissfully unaware that this photo is being taken, and you can imagine the sounds that he's making. And then there is a list of albums that you can listen to if you want to listen to some ambient music, and here they are. Soothing Sounds for Baby, Volume 1, A Rainbow in Curved Air, Interdimensional Music, Ambient 1, Music for Airports, E2 to E4, Green, Chill Out, 94 Discount, Pop, Endless Summer. So those span from 1962 to 2001, and then we end up with these two lovely photos. So this is cool. I always love looking at and talking about physical media on paper. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's reading. And as always, please let me know of any other pieces of writing from the Bay Area, from or about the Bay Area, that you think more people should know about. And I will be back soon with another piece of writing for us to look at. Thank you!